catch that pretty quick. And my natural inclination to want to take care of myself and to be in good shape and to be strong and fit. I was more concerned about practical things in this world. I was aware the world was a dangerous place and that there's a lot of unpleasant people who want to do unpleasant things. And God had blessed me with a certain amount of physical strength and knowledge in that area that I wanted to stay alert and fit and ready to take care of things if need be.
How did you come to realize the world was a dangerous place?
Well, growing up in Pasadena, there was a very stark contrast from the upper class families that lived there and the, I guess you might say lower classes, but it doesn't. And by the way, it's self-evident there are fine people from the lower classes or whatever. That means just economic stratosphere we're talking about. Fine people from there and lousy people from the upper classes, so-called. So that was self-evident at an early age. But there was since one in those days you just traveled everywhere. I traveled usually by bike. I had a paper route for the LA Times. I delivered papers for them. And that took me all over Pasadena. I think it must have had like a 15-mile, I'm exaggerating somewhat, probably a 7-mile route, paper route. And that took me all over Pasadena. And in those dealings, there were a lot of unpleasant people one came across, a lot of unpleasant youths. And the sort of dog-eat-dog mentality was very self-evident. And I was victimized by it. But victimized isn't really the way I think about it. I became exposed to it and decided it's better to deal with this through strength than anything else. And it's a reality. It's not going away.
How about guns? Did your dad own a gun? Did he teach you to shoot a gun?
If you're asking about guns, first, how about guns, or just you want to go from the past up to the present, or
The past, yeah. As a kid, were you
as a kid, I
around
wasn't
guns?
exposed to them.
No?
I was aware that the bad guys had. There was a little bit of a code of ethics, though. It was not considered that people were going to use guns when they could, if they can beat somebody up. There's no reason to use guns, and if you could use a knife, there'd be no reason to use guns. But they were there. And my father wasn't into that, and so I was never exposed to it through that. Again, as I applied my intellect to martial arts, I looked at it through that prism. Everything is related to that as a martial arts, so guns, knives, swords, all part of it. You're going to be good at something, be good at it. If you're not, don't. You don't have to. But I was interested in being good at that, so I had a natural, I considered it my business as a human being to become expert in all martial arts. And I did succeed.
Were you a good kid?
I don't know what you, good.
Well, I mean, were you a bully? Were you...
No, because of my early exposure as a young kid with the paper route, etc., being exposed to bullies and even criminals, I took it upon myself to become a champion. And the thing that I hated most in the world were bullies. And God blessed me that at an early age I was physical and strong, and disproportionately strong for my age. And I even looked older than my friends at the same age. So I was well equipped. Again, starting martial arts at the age of, certainly by the age of 12, seriously by the age of 13. And even as you know, having gravitated towards wrestling and things like that, even the theatrical wrestling of television, I would emulate and took pride in the fact that I could wrestle 5 or 6 of my friends at once and pin them all in good fun, of course. But there were serious matters I underline all of that, so I took it seriously. And anyway, I was not a bully, thank God, and I became someone who, if anything, I became a bully of bullies, if you will, and enjoyed that.
If I asked your classmates from Andover, describe Rick Moses, what words would they have used?
I had 2 or 3 close friends, and I think that they would say a loner, interesting. They might have said He's a bit of a loner. When they've talked to me, they've maybe said that I like him and I didn't expect to. And I understood that, and it didn't bother me, and I was happy with that. I always had pretty good relations with those I spent time with, and it was this is not a good character quality, but I was completely indifferent to people that I didn't deal with. Although they wouldn't have known it, but in a positive sense, I didn't mean I didn't like people. I liked people. I saw them from a distance and liked them, so it's nice. He's cool. He does his thing. I was probably good-hearted inside myself, and but not perceived as such.
And you wanted to be an actor. What was underlying that? Like, what was your deepest desires as a teenager?
As a teenager,
Yeah.
well, again, this goes back to the time one does sense that there's a purpose to life, and wherever you see some aspect of that, where someone who's older and has achieved certain things, and you sense in them that they've achieved some aspect of that purpose, one gravitates to it, one admires it, one emulates it, and this is natural and good and the way God made it. It happened to be that, as for many people who admired actors, but not everyone, a very small percentage decide, no, I'd like to actually do that. So again, I can only go back to the fact that God had put it in my mind, and part of His kindness to me, was that He made it clear that I should endeavor. I have lots of thoughts as to what's good about it and what its purpose is now. It's illuminated and clarified through one's exposure to extraordinary beauty and scope of Torah. But to be succinct and not obtuse, Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says that art in its ideal form can be a bridge to God. And I don't see how one could say it any better than that. And I think that's at the heart of what it was that evoked me. What does one really want when you gravitate towards something? One actually is seeking closeness to God at the level of their understanding.
And were you cognizant of God when you were at Andover?
I was always cognizant of God. I never doubted at any time that there was that God is, that God was. I did think that there was perhaps a limitation to what we could do about it, and that there was any specific request that God had of us. I was completely ignorant of that, except in the general sense of the Ten Commandments, which I, again, always took seriously.
And what role did Jews play in your life? Did you have Jewish friends?
I noticed that this is something interesting, that all my close friends, and I was in private and public school even for a while before the Chadwick experience in Palos Verdes, and but many of the friends that I had over the years were Jewish, and they were not, as I understand, religious Jews now. In fact, I didn't even understand there was such thing as an Orthodox Jew until I was in my 40s. But all of my friends, the vast majority, I wouldn't say I had no non-Jewish friends, but the vast majority of my friends have been Jewish. And this is just, as I became aware of Judaism, it's easy to look back. Hashem was being kind to me and showing me, making it easy for me, if you will, in some respects, to move closer to Him.
How did you deal with it in your head that here were your Jewish friends, yet your religion taught you that the only way to God was through Jesus? So how did you deal with that?
Well, there's a famous book by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi.
Yeah,
He called the Khazari.
Khazari,
You know
right.
the Khazari. I